My mother demanded I cancel my wedding and give my sister $50,000 for her dream wedding. When I refused, she threw hot coffee in my face in front of 60 guests. Then my fiancé walked in and revealed the secret I had been keeping from all of them for years. The coffee hit my face before my brain accepted that my own mother had actually thrown it. That is the thing nobody tells you about being assaulted by your mother in a living room full of relatives, neighbors, your sister's future in-laws, and women from church who used to compliment your report cards when you were 8. The body understands before the mind does. The burn came first. A sharp, instant scorch across my left cheek and jaw, hot enough to make my skin tighten and my eyes water. It soaked through the collar of the white dress shirt I had ironed that morning, because I wanted to look like the man I had spent 15 years becoming. Calm, successful, controlled. Then, I heard myself scream. Not a word. Just a sound. Low, raw, involuntary. The kind of sound a man makes before pride has time to stop him. The room went silent in that specific way rooms go silent when everyone understands something has happened that cannot be politely explained away. My mother stood across from me with the empty cup still in her hand. Her chest was rising and falling. Her face was red, not with shame, but with rage that I had forced her performance to crack. Coffee dripped from my jaw onto my shirt front. My sister stared at me like I had ruined her party by bleeding into it. And my mother looked at me, her oldest son, burned and humiliated in front of everyone, and said the 6 words I still hear when I smell coffee. Now look what you made me do. I should start closer to the beginning. My name is Nathan Mercer. I am 35 years old, and I'm a founding partner at Meridian Ridge Capital, a growth equity firm headquartered in Boston, with a little over $900 million in assets under management. I did not come from money. I came from a 3-bedroom colonial in Lexington, Massachusetts, a father named Thomas who sold commercial insurance, and a mother named Elaine who ran our family like a private company where everyone had a role, and mine was never allowed to be child. I put myself through the University of Michigan with merit scholarships, federal grants, summer jobs, and 2 part-time jobs during the school year. One was shelving books in the business library. The other was closing shifts at a steakhouse where I learned how to smile at men who talked down to me because I needed the tips more than I needed pride. After graduation, I took an analyst position at a mid-market investment firm, rented a room with 2 strangers, and got my MBA at night while working full-time. For 15 years, I built the kind of life my mother liked to brag about when it made her look good, and resent when it gave me the right to say no. I was not weak. I was just trained early to survive without asking anyone to notice. My sister Claire is 29. She is beautiful in the effortless way that makes people forgive disorganization and call it charm. She has my mother's smile, my mother's timing, and my mother's gift for making other people feel rude for noticing when she has taken too much. Claire graduated from Boston College with a communications degree my parents paid for completely. Tuition, room, board, sorority dues, spring break trips. The semester in Florence she described as transformational in an email I read while eating gas station food between my internship and a night shift. I had loans, Claire had luggage. That was the pattern. When I needed help, there were lectures about discipline. When Claire needed help, there were family meetings about support. If she quit a job after 10 months, it was because the environment was toxic. If I worked 70 hours a week, it was because I had always been so driven. My mother called her sensitive. She called me capable. It took me years to understand that in my family. Capable did not mean respected. It meant available. Available to fix. Available to pay. Available to absorb the consequences of decisions I had not made. Claire was the golden child. I was the backup plan with a bank account. My fiancée, Dr. Maya Lin, is 36 and an attending physician in emergency medicine at Mass General. Maya is not loud. She does not need to be. She has the kind of calm that makes a room lower its voice around her. 10 years of telling families the truth on the worst days of their lives had stripped anything performative out of her. She notices everything. The tremor in someone's hand. The half-second pause before a lie. The way I used to go quiet after phone calls with my mother and then pretend I was only tired. At the time of Claire's engagement party, Maya was the only person outside my attorney and my accountant who knew the full scope of what I had been doing for my family. Not part of it. Not the polite version. All of it. She knew about the mortgage payments, the trust, the student loan payoff. The way I had built financial walls around people who would have called me selfish while standing inside the house I was saving. I had asked her to keep it quiet. She did. Because she respected me. But respecting me was not the same as watching my mother burn me and letting the lie survive. The secret started in October of 2021, when my father called me on a Tuesday afternoon. That alone told me something was wrong. My father did not call directly unless my mother either allowed it or did not know about it. His voice sounded small, compressed, like he was speaking from inside a locked room. "Nate," he said, "we have a situation." the situation was the mortgage. They had refinanced the house in 2018. At the time, my mother called it a smart restructuring. Later, I learned the money had covered Claire's Florence semester, a kitchen renovation my mother had wanted for years, and several expenses everyone agreed not to name out loud. The new payment was $2,612 a month. My father's commissions had dropped hard after the pandemic. They were 4 months behind. Atlantic Federal Bank had sent a notice of intent to foreclose. He did not ask me for money. He just gave me the facts in the voice of a man who had run out of doors. So I did what I had been trained to do. I fixed it. I called my attorney, Nora Keene, and we established the Harbor Point Family Trust, structured so the mortgage payments would appear to come from a routine disbursement account with no obvious connection to me. The first payment went out in November. 37 months later, I had paid $106,844 between arrears and ongoing mortgage payments. No one knew. Not my mother, not Claire. Maya found out 8 months in when she saw a statement from Nora's office on my desk and asked me one direct question: are you protecting them? Or are you protecting the story they tell about themselves? I did not answer. She held my hand anyway. Later, I quietly paid off Claire's student loans too. $31,400 through the same trust, labeled as an education relief disbursement. Claire apparently thought she had qualified for some federal forgiveness program and bought a designer couch to celebrate. I let her believe it. Claire's engagement party started at 2 o'clock on a Saturday in April. I arrived at exactly 2:00 p.m. because punctuality was one of the few things my mother could never accuse me of failing at. I wore a charcoal blazer, dark slacks, and the white shirt that would later be ruined. In my hands was a wrapped Vitamix blender Claire had mentioned once, 7 months earlier, while complaining that smoothies from cafes were getting too expensive. I remember that because I wrote it down. That was something I did for people I loved. I noticed what they wanted. I stored it away. I showed up with proof that they had been heard. My mother opened the door in pearl earrings and a silk blouse, already bright with party energy. Elaine Mercer at Social Volume was a different species, softer voice, wider smile. Every movement calibrated for witnesses. "Nathan," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek, "where's Maya coming from the hospital? She should be here around 3:30. "Of course," my mother said, not quite criticizing, which was her favorite way to criticize. The house was full. 60 people. Easily. Family, neighbors, church friends, Claire's co-workers, and her fiancé's relatives arranged around rented champagne flutes and flowers my mother had bought cheap and rearranged in expensive vases. Claire stood in the center of the living room, in a pale green dress, glowing like the whole house had been built to frame her. Her fiancé, Preston Vale, hovered near the kitchen with a drink in hand and a smile that stayed on half a second too long. He looked at people the way investors look at numbers, assessing value, calculating exits. I said hello. I made small talk. I handed over the gift. And for 29 minutes, I believed I was only there to celebrate my sister. At 2:31 p.m., my mother touched my arm. "Come help me with the cheese board." There was no cheese board. She guided me past the kitchen and into my father's study. A small room off the hall with dark shelves, an old desk, and the stale atmosphere of bills paid late and conversations avoided. My father was already there, standing beside the window with his hands in his pockets. That was how I knew it had been staged. My mother closed the door. "Claire's wedding is going to cost $50,000, she said. I waited. "We think you should contribute?" "No," I said. Her smile tightened. "Nathan." "No. Mom. Maya and I are planning our own wedding. I'm not taking money from our budget to fund Claire's." My father looked at the rug. My mother stepped closer. "You make more than enough. You don't know what I make. You're the son, family helps family." "I agree," I said. "That's why I'd like to go back to the party before this becomes something ugly." Her face changed then. Not dramatically. Just enough to show me the performance had dropped. "Your sister deserves one beautiful day. So does Maya." Silence. Then I picked up my glass from the desk and said the sentence I should have learned to say years earlier. "The answer is no." My mother was quiet for 4 full seconds. I counted them because counting was easier than feeling the heat rising in my chest. Then she opened the study door and walked back into the party. I followed her because I still believed, stupidly, that private humiliation was where she would stop. She went straight to the center of the living room. She did not raise her voice. She did not have to. The room had fallen into one of those accidental silences parties create every 20 minutes. When no one is speaking loudly enough to cover the next thing said. My mother stepped into it perfectly. "I think I need to say something," she began, warm and wounded. Every inch the disappointed mother. "Nathan has been asked to help give his sister the wedding she deserves, and he has refused." 60 faces turned toward me. My aunt stopped mid-sip. One of Preston's cousins lowered her champagne flute. Claire's mouth opened slightly. Whether in surprise or performance, I still do not know. My mother kept going. My son has done very well for himself, very well. And yet when his only sister needs him, he says no. Mom, I said quietly. This is not the place. She looked at me like I had confirmed something terrible about myself. You want privacy now? I want you to stop. That was the wrong sentence. Or maybe it was the right one. And she simply could not survive hearing it. She turned toward the side table, where she had arranged coffee service in polished silver and porcelain cups. Because my mother believed every gathering needed evidence that she had standards. She picked up a full cup for 1 second. I thought she was going to take a sip to steady herself. Then she threw it. The coffee struck the left side of my face and neck, splashing across my jaw, soaking my collar, running hot under the edge of my shirt. My body jerked backward before my mind caught up. Someone gasped. Someone said, "Oh my God." My hand flew to my cheek. My mother was already speaking. It was an accident, she said too quickly. He moved. I didn't mean nobody moved. Claire stood 10 feet away, crying now, but not for me. Why does this always happen, she said, voice breaking. Why does everything have to be ruined? My father stood in the study doorway, frozen in the place where he had spent most of my childhood, close enough to witness, too weak to intervene, and I sat down in the chair someone pushed behind me, pressing cocktail napkins to my burning face, while my mother tried to manage the optics of assault. The front door opened at 3:22 p.m. Maya came in still wearing the navy fleece she kept in her car after hospital shifts. Her hair pulled back, her face tired in the way only emergency medicine can make a person tired. Then, she saw me. Everything in her changed except her speed. She did not run. Maya never ran unless running helped. She crossed the room in 5 controlled steps and crouched in front of me, taking my wrist first, then tilting my chin gently toward the light. What happened? I'm okay. You have a burn. I know. Her eyes moved over my cheek, my collar, the wet shirt front, the coffee spreading dark across the hardwood floor. She looked at the napkins in my hand, then at my mother. Elaine appeared beside her with that same reconstructed social smile. Maya. Thank goodness. It was just a little family disagreement. Nathan was being difficult, and things got heated. Maya stood slowly. The room seemed to brace around her. You threw hot liquid at your son because he wouldn't give you money. My mother blinked. That is not what happened. Maya's voice stayed quiet. Stop talking. For the first time in my life. My mother did. The silence that followed was different from the first one. When my mother threw the coffee, the room went silent from shock. This silence had weight. It was the sound of 60 people suddenly realizing they had walked into the middle of a story whose beginning they did not know. Maya turned toward them. I have kept quiet about this family because Nathan asked me to, she said. He protects people who do not protect him back, but I am not going to stand here and watch him be called selfish while he is holding napkins to a burn his own mother gave him. My mother made a short laugh. Maya, this is private. You made it public. No one moved. Maya looked back at my parents. For the last 37 months, Nathan has been paying your mortgage through a trust designed specifically so you would not know the payments came from him. My father closed his eyes. My mother's face emptied. That's not true, she said. It is, Maya replied. Atlantic Federal Bank. Mortgage account ending in 7741, Harbor Point Family Trust. 4 months of arrears paid in November 2021. $11,986 to stop the foreclosure process. Then $2,612 every month after that. A sound moved through the room. Not quite a gasp, more like 60 people recalculating the same equation at once. Maya's voice did not rise. Total paid so far $106,844. Your house still belongs to you because of the son you just tried to humiliate for not giving you more. My mother reached for the back of a chair. Maya turned toward Claire. Softer now, but no less clear. And Claire. The student loans you thought disappeared through an education relief program, Nathan paid them. All $31,400. He structured it that way because he did not want you embarrassed. Claire's hand covered her mouth. Preston, who had been standing near the kitchen, suddenly looked at me with a new kind of interest. I saw it immediately. So did Maya. And since everyone seems very concerned about what Nathan owes this family, she said, facing the room again, you should know he is not just in finance. He is a founding partner at Meridian Ridge Capital, one of the strongest growth equity firms in the Northeast. He built that from nothing, while quietly keeping this family's house out of foreclosure. Someone near the hallway whispered. Meridian Ridge. Preston took 1 step toward me. I had no idea you were. Don't, I said. He stopped. My mother had not moved. She stood in the center of the living room she still had because of me. staring at the coffee stains on my shirt like they had finally become evidence. My mother's hand tightened on the chair. For a moment, I thought she was going to speak. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Then her knees bent. She did not faint gracefully. There was no slow collapse, no dramatic hand to the forehead. She went sideways, struck the edge of the chair, and hit the floor with a dull, human sound that made someone scream. The room broke open. People moved all at once. Claire shouted, "Mom!" My father finally crossed a room quickly. 15 years too late. Preston's mother, who said she had been a nurse, knelt beside her and told everyone to give her space. Maya was already there. Whatever she thought of my mother, she was still an emergency physician, and someone had gone down in front of her. She checked my mother's pulse, asked for the room to clear, and took out her phone. "This is likely stress syncope," she said calmly. "But we are calling it in." She gave the address, described the fall, and monitored my mother's breathing until the paramedics arrived 9 minutes later. My mother woke after about 3 minutes, confused and pale, pearls still in her ears. She did not look at me. Guests began leaving in quiet clusters. Claire sat on the stairs, crying for real this time. I stood near the window, burned shirt drying against my skin, and felt nothing clean enough to name. When the paramedics had my mother stabilized, Maya came back to me. "Ready to go?" she asked quietly. I looked around the room one last time. The rented champagne flutes, the flowers in my mother's good vases, the coffee drying dark on the hardwood floor, Claire on the stairs with mascara under her eyes, my father standing near the hallway like a man who had misplaced the last defense he had for himself. "More than ready," I said. We were almost at the door when my father grabbed my arm. Not hard. Almost not enough to stop me. "Nathan," he said. "There's something else." I turned. His face looked different. Not guilty. Broken. Like something inside him had finally stopped holding its shape. "Dad. Your grandmother," he said. "Your mother's mother. There was money." Maya went still beside me. "When she died in 2010, the estate was split. Half to your mother. Half to you." The room nearest us quieted again. I stared at him. "Half to me." He nodded. "The total estate was $340,000. Your share was $170,000. My burned cheek pulsed once. Hard. "What happened to it?" My father looked down. "Elaine told the estate attorney you didn't want it, that you were focused on school and estranged from that side of the family. She submitted a disclaimer of inheritance. I never signed anything." "I know." The 2 words landed worse than the number. He swallowed. "She signed your name." For a second, the room narrowed to his face, his mouth, the terrible effort it took him to keep speaking. "She used it for the kitchen renovation. Claire's school, other things. I found the paperwork 2 years later. By then most of it was gone. I thought about every shift I had worked through college, every scholarship form, every night class, every time my mother had called me hard-working like it was a compliment instead of a sentence. "You knew for 13 years, I said. His eyes filled. "Yes." I waited for anger to arrive. It did. But cold, useful. "Do you still have the documents?" He blinked. "The estate file," I said. "The forged disclaimer. Transfer records. Do you have them?" "In my office," he said. "I kept everything." I looked at Maya. She looked back at me, steady as ever. Then I turned to my father. "Get them." I called Nora Keene at 6:18 that evening from Maya's apartment. I had a cold compress against my cheek, a glass of bourbon I had not touched on the coffee table, and my laptop open in front of me. Maya sat beside me without speaking. She knew the difference between silence and absence. Nora is 52, has practiced estate and civil litigation in Massachusetts for 24 years, and has the rare ability to sound unsurprised and furious at the same time. I told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for 3 seconds. "Your mother forged your signature on an inheritance disclaimer. That appears to be the case, Nathan. That is civil fraud, depending on the documents. It may also be criminal. I know. If Thomas has originals, transfer records, and correspondence with the estate attorney, we may have a viable recovery action. There will be statute of limitations arguments, but concealment matters. So does discovery. I don't want to decide tonight," I said. "Tonight, I want options." So she gave me options. Civil claim, demand letter, settlement posture, possible referral to the district attorney, unjust enrichment, interest. The difference between getting money back and turning my mother's life into a public criminal matter. After we hung up, Maya took the compress from my hand, checked my cheek, and gave it back. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking. I built my whole life like no one was coming to help me because no one was." She nodded. "And the whole time, My mother had $170,000 that should have been mine sitting in cabinets. Tuition. And lies. Yeah, I looked at the untouched bourbon. I'll file the civil claim. I'll recover what I can. And criminal, I shook my head. I'm not protecting her. I'm protecting what comes next. I don't want the next decade of my life organized around destroying my mother. Maya leaned against me. Then, that's the right call. 5 months later, Nora filed the civil complaint in Middlesex Superior Court. My father gave her everything without being asked twice. The original estate documents, the disclaimer with my forged signature, transfer records, emails between my mother and the estate attorney, a handwritten note from my grandmother's file naming me directly. I think handing those documents over was the first clean thing my father had done in more than a decade. My mother's attorney was a man named Paul Granger, who gave the strong impression that he usually handled minor business disputes and had not expected Nora Keene to arrive with a complete evidence package arranged in labeled exhibits. The case settled before trial. The final number was $194,000. The original $170,000 plus interest and fees, negotiated down just enough for everyone to pretend it was practical rather than humiliating. I put $100,000 into the Harbor Point Family Trust and directed Nora to stop the mortgage payments permanently. The remaining $94,000 I split in half. $47,000 went into the wedding account Maya and I had opened together. The other $47,000 went into a separate account for Claire. Not because she had earned it, not because I had forgotten the party, the tears, the way she had worried about the room before she worried about my face. I did it because I had spent my life taking care of people, and I did not want my mother to turn generosity into something I was ashamed of. I only wanted to stop giving it to people who treated it like a debt they were owed. I texted Claire the account information with one sentence. This is yours. No conditions. She called 22 minutes later. For the first few minutes, she cried, too hard to speak. I stood in my office with the glass door closed, watching rain move down the Boston skyline, and waited her out. I didn't know, she finally said. About the mortgage, the loans, any of it, I know. I thought the student loan thing was real. I thought I'd qualified for something. I know that too. Her breath shook. Why would you do all that and never tell me? Because I loved you. Because I was trained to. Because somewhere along the way, being your older brother became less about protection and more about erasing the cost of everyone else's choices. What I said was quieter. I was raised to believe love meant taking care of people silently. I'm still figuring out which parts of that are worth keeping. She did not answer right away. I want to be different, she said. I don't know how yet, but I want to be. I looked at the city, at my own reflection in the glass. Older than I felt and less angry than I expected. It's a start, I said. My mother called once in October. I let it go to voicemail. The message was 4 minutes and 11 seconds long. She said the word sorry twice. Both times. It was buried inside sentences that belonged to someone negotiating damage, not accepting responsibility. I'm sorry things became so emotional. I'm sorry you felt humiliated in front of everyone. Not once did she say, I threw coffee at you. Not once did she say, I stole from you. Not once did she say, I was wrong. I listened to it once, saved it for Nora, and never called her back. I still do not know if I ever will. Maya and I got married in early November. Small, specific hours. 22 people at a restored farmhouse outside Stowe, Vermont, with cedar beams, candlelight, and long wooden tables set close enough that no one could hide behind distance. The air smelled like cold leaves and wood smoke. Dinner lasted until nearly midnight because nobody wanted to leave. My father came. He sat in the second row, cried quietly through the vows, and did not ask for forgiveness in a room that was not built for his guilt. Later, I saw him helping Maya's mother carry plates back to the kitchen. Sleeves rolled up, head lowered. Useful without needing to be seen. Claire came alone. She hugged me carefully, like she understood that being allowed near me was not the same thing as being forgiven. My mother was not invited. No one said her name. And for the first time in 35 years, I attended a family event where my job was not to manage the tension, absorb the cost, fix the damage, or make someone else feel generous. I was allowed to stand there and be happy the morning after the wedding. Maya made coffee, actual coffee, the slow kind. Beans ground in the farmhouse kitchen while pale November light came through the windows and frost held on to the grass outside. She handed me a mug without making a speech about it. That was one of the things I loved about her. Maya understood that not every wound needed to be named in order to be honored. We sat on the porch in our coats, shoulder to shoulder, looking out over the bare trees and the low gray hills beyond them. I held the mug with both hands. For a second, the smell hit something in me. A living room. 60 faces, my mother's hand, heat across my cheek, the words she had tried to leave inside me. Now look what you made me do. Then Maya's thumb brushed once against my wrist. And the memory loosened. The cup was warm. That was all. Not a weapon, not humiliation, not proof that love meant standing still while someone hurt you and called it family. Just coffee, just warmth, nothing else. That was how I knew I was going to be okay. If this story held your attention, you can stay with us for more raw family drama stories about betrayal, truth, and the moment someone finally stops being the family sacrifice.